3 spine-chilling scary tales that revealed sinister secrets on a haunted rainy night alone. The storm raged outside, thunder growling like a beast unleashed. Rain beat against the windows so hard it felt as if the world was trying to break in. Sarah sat on the couch, her heart racing with each crack of lightning, the atmosphere thick with tension. Ethan tugged at her sleeve, his 7-year-old eyes wide with wonder and fear. "Can we read?" he whispered, his small voice barely audible over the cacophony. She took a deep breath and pulled him close, brushing his messy hair off his forehead. "Sure, buddy. Let's dive into a magical world." But magic felt far away tonight, replaced by the stifling shadows creeping around the old living room. As Sarah flipped open the colorful pages, the overhead light flickered ominously. It wasn't just her imagination. Specifically rectangular shapes enabled the shadows to dance around them, twisting into grotesque versions of their reality. "It's just the storm," she assured her son, but each creak of the house sent shivers down her spine. The wind howled, an eerie lullaby that edged closer to a desperate scream. She glanced back to the darkened hallway, just beyond the living room, her heart thudding in her chest. Then came the noise of scratching, a muffled thump from the attic as if something had just shifted, pushing against the ceiling. A chill raced through Sarah. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice trembling. Ethan nodded, eyes flickering with the same maddening curiosity that danced in her chest. "Maybe it's a monster," he asked, a mixture of glee and terror lighting his face. "Just her luck, a stormy night, haunted house vibes, dangerous thrills all wrapped up in a nightmare wrapped in whispers." Could it be the wind? She forced herself to breathe, to calm the fight or flight instincts clawing at her. "Ethan, will you stay here? I'll check it out," she said, her voice steeling itself. "I'll be right back." She crept toward the attic stairs, the wooden steps creaking under her weight, yet somehow sounding louder than the rain outside. The attic door loomed, painted shut with years of neglect. With a deep breath, she pushed it open, the smell of decay and dust overwhelmed her senses. In the dim light, boxes lay strewn about, sleeping memories veiled in dust. As she rummaged, one box caught her eye, a stack of old photographs. Curiosity clamored against her feelings of dread. Each image she flipped revealed families long gone, trapped in smiles that felt wrong, wrong enough to make her skin prickle. Then she paused, cold spreading through her veins like ice. There they were. The couple looked hauntingly familiar, their eyes glossy with something sinister. They had lived down the street. What had happened to them? Suddenly, a pounding sounded from the front door, jolting her back into the moment, heart racing. Fear surged through her veins. She glanced at Ethan, who now stood frozen, wide-eyed. Peering through the peephole, dread settled heavy in her stomach. Paul, the neighbor, soaked and shivering on the doorstep, his expression a mix of desperation and something darker. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." An instinct screamed at her to bolt. Surely, she could help, could offer comfort, but his smile felt off, an echo of the haunting faces from the photos. Just as she weighed her next steps, the lights flickered once more, leaving her enveloped in suffocating darkness. And then, her phone buzzed on the table, casting a flicker of light in the void. "You have to leave now. He's not who you think. He is." The words shot through her like a bullet, pulse racing, drowning in a sea of uncertainty. She could almost hear the laughter of shadows close in around her, proving that sometimes, underneath the familiar facade of a suburban life, perils simmered just beneath the surface. Sarah's breath hitched as panic surged through her. She turned to her son, the weight of the warning heavy in the air. How could she protect him? "Ethan, come here," she said, her voice barely a whisper. He rushed into her arms, instinctively seeking safety, his tiny heart racing against her chest. The pounding continued, an urgent rhythm that made her skin crawl. Paul's hands pressed against the door, fingers splayed as if bracing for entry. "Let me in, Sarah. It's not safe out here," he called, words slurring together unnaturally. Fear bubbled within her. She couldn't let him in, the warning echoed relentlessly in her mind. But with each plea, her resolve weakened. Was he truly in trouble, or was something far more sinister lurking just beneath the surface? "Stay here," she instructed Ethan, before reluctantly creeping toward the door. The man outside had been a good neighbor, once a family man and friendly smile. But what if that smile hid something far darker? She glanced at the photos scattered on the floor, the haunting faces staring back at her. Did any of them bear resemblance to Paul? Shaking off the thought, she steeled herself and pressed her ear against the door. "Ethan, I need you to be very quiet," she whispered. The relentless rain pattered outside, but the pounding had stopped, replaced by a chilling silence that made her skin crawl. Just as she turned the doorknob, the house creaked in protest, and a sudden gust of wind howled through the cracks, sending icy fingers down her spine. "Open the door." Paul's voice came again, more frantic. "I can't know. I can't let it get me." Her heart raced. What was he talking about? Sweat trickled down her back as she hesitated, glancing toward Ethan. His eyes shimmered with unshed tears, fear palpable in the silence between them, but uncertainty gnawed at her. She pulled the door open a crack, enough to peer out, but the moment she did, an eerie chill slapped her face. Paul's expression flipped from desperation to something cold and calculating, a grin stretching unnaturally across his face. "See? I knew you'd let me in," he hissed, eyes ablaze but lifeless. She slammed the door, heart pounding like a drum. What had she just seen? This wasn't Paul. Not the man she recognized. "Mom. What's happening?" Ethan's voice squeaked, small and terrified. "Just stay close, Ethan. We need to stay safe." With a racing heart, Sarah backed away from the door, shoving furniture in front of it in a makeshift barricade. The pit of her stomach twisted with dread. In that moment of heightened terror, the lights flickered once more, then dimmed. Shadows descended upon the room, elongating, swirling like a hungry mist. Goosebumps flared on her flesh as she exchanged worried glances with Ethan. "Mom, are the monsters real?" he whispered, trembling against her side. "Not real, buddy. Just feelings," she replied, the words feeling like a lie even as she said them. And just then, the shadow at the corner of the room shifted, no longer just a figment born of dark. A figure emerged, darker than the night itself, eyes glinting in the flickering light. "Leave the house." Its voice was a rasp, sharp and chilling like glass breaking. "You have to leave, now." The words slithered into her mind, chilling her. The storm outside howled in agreement. Panic gripped her heart. "Ethan!" she screamed, clutching his small hand tightly. "We have to go. Right now." The figure took a step closer, and shadows wrapped around its form, spiraling like a living entity. Sarah's thoughts raced, out the back door. The stairs. The thought of confronting whatever lay beyond sent shudders through her. Time seemed to fracture as she processed if the escape was truly safe or just another step into the unknown. Suddenly, there came a deafening crash from upstairs, rattling the walls, shaking her to the core. "Mom!" Ethan cried, eyes wide with terror. She felt her heart drop, turning her gaze back to the stairs leading up to the attic. Even the smallest whisper of that space felt daunting now. Had something escaped? Or had it been waiting all along? Standing at the precipice of choice, Sarah felt a darker pull from the attic, a signal, a whisper. But it was one that promised danger and dread beyond her comprehension, and then, that mocking grin floated back into her mind. Would they confront whatever was lurking in their home, or flee into the storm, surrendering everything? The storm outside reached a fever pitch, and with a breathless heart, Sarah made her decision, stepping toward the darkness as echoes of unknown shadows beckoned her to follow. The air felt electric, crackling with tension as Sarah gripped Ethan's hand tightly. The shadows loomed larger, pulsating with a sinister energy that seemed to breathe, alive and hungry. "We have to go. Down the stairs," she urged, her voice a fierce whisper, biting back the fear clawing at her throat. Just as she turned to hurry toward the stairs, the figure shifted, blocking her path. Its presence enveloped the space, the darkness thickening like a fog. "You can't run from this," it rasped, the sound echoing off the walls of their home like a haunting lullaby. "Mom!" Ethan whimpered, squeezing her hand. She felt his small frame tremble, the fear radiating off him like a heat wave. Sarah took a shaky step backward, her mind racing. To flee upstairs seemed absurd, dangerous, but there had to be something there, some clue about what was happening. "Ethan, listen to me," she said fiercely, her voice steadier than she felt. "We need to go upstairs. We need to find out what's going on." "But what about it?" Ethan stammered, glancing nervously at the figure that seemed to pulsate like a heartbeat. She swallowed hard, her resolve hardening. "There's no time to think about that now. Trust me. We'll face it together." With determination driving her forward, she pulled Ethan away from the dark figure and dashed toward the stairs. Each step felt like a descent into the abyss, the very ground beneath her feet throbbing with a sinister pulse. The storm raged outside, the wind howling through the cracks, a mournful symphony to accompany their desperate escape. They reached the top of the stairs, breathless and wide-eyed. The attic door loomed ahead like a gaping mouth, its knob cold under her fingers. Raising her hand to turn it, she hesitated. "Mom. What if we shouldn't?" Ethan's voice was small, a child's voice echoing the woman's uncertainty. She glanced back toward the dark staircase. The figure was gone, swallowed by the shadows, but its presence lingered, a shroud of dread wrapping tightly around her. "We have to know," she whispered, steeling herself. "It's the only way." With a swift turn of the knob, the attic door creaked open, revealing a darkness thicker than the storm outside. A heavy scent of decay hung in the air, a stench that clawed at her throat. She flicked the light switch. Nothing happened. "Ethan, stay right behind me," she instructed, stepping into the room, feeling the floorboards creak under her weight. Dust floated in the stagnant air as they moved deeper into the attic, shadows dancing with each hesitant footfall. It was cluttered with old furniture, boxes piled high, and photographs coded in time. Carefully, she picked her way through the mess, her heart racing. What were they searching for? A sign? A clue? The walls felt constricting, suffocating her thoughts. "What's that?" Ethan's voice broke the silence, pointing shakily toward an old trunk near the far wall. Her stomach twisted as she approached. The trunk was weathered, ancient, and locked, its ornate metal glinting in the faint light. A low thud echoed from the floor beneath them, a reminder that they were not alone, that something dark was still lurking. "Mom, I don't like this." Ethan's whisper trembled, pulling at her heart. She glanced back at him, his small face illuminated by fear, and felt a surge of protective instinct flood her. But something about that trunk pulled her closer. She knelt before it, ignoring the dread pooling in her stomach. "Maybe it holds answers," she breathed, fingers brushing against the cold metal. As she reached to feel for a way to open it, the floor shook violently, sending both mother and son sprawling back. The trunk flew open on its own, the contents spilling out tattered papers, sepia-toned photographs, a small, crooked mirror. Then she saw it. A face staring back at her through the glass. Not her own. "Mom!" Sarah felt sure she'd scream, but the horror in the reflection silenced her. The face, once distorted, turned from the mirror, locking eyes with Ethan. "Run!" she shouted, panic erupting through her. She grabbed her son's wrist, yanking him back toward the door just as the figure from the room barreled up the stairs, a new wave of terror coursing through her veins. the heart-stopping moment before they dashed down the stairs held an echo of an unknown promise something much worse awaited. As they fled from the darkness above, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that whatever cursed their house had just woken up, and it was hungry for more. Where would they go now with the storm raging outside and the malevolence closing in? And what had they truly uncovered in the attic that could change everything? The storm roared louder as they reached the door, each racing heartbeat threading a new dread into the fabric of their escape. The doors slammed shut behind them with an almost human force, rattling the very foundation of the house. Sarah could barely hear Ethan's breath wheezing in panic. The storm outside shrieked, rain pounding against the roof in a chaotic rhythm, and the weight of the house felt heavier, pressing down on them. No, no. She gasped, tugging at the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if the very walls had conspired against them. Dark energy pulsed through the corridor, resonating with their fear. Damn it. Mom, it's coming. Ethan cried, eyes wide, darting to the staircase. She turned and saw it, the figure now halfway down the steps, liquid shadows pouring off of it like smoke. It moved unnaturally, limbs extending and retracting, defying the rules of nature. I don't want to die. Shoo. She pressed her finger against her lips, trying to steal some precious calm out of the insanity drowning them. But Ethan's fear began to seep into her, clenching her gut. They had to find another way out. Follow me, Ethan. With her heart hammering violently against her chest, she led him deeper into the narrow hallway, searching desperately for a window, hoping for an escape from this hell. The old house seemed to be yawning wider, another shadow fracturing the dim light. It was alive, breathing. Then she spotted a window at the end of the hall, its frame streaked with age, but it was still there. Quickly. They sprinted toward it. Every step echoed like a death bell, the figure now moving, bounding closer. Mom, please. It's right behind us. Ethan shouted, his voice cracking. Just a little further. She pushed onward, their breaths mingling into a painful and frantic rhythm. As they reached the window, she shoved it open. The hinges creaked, protesting, but they didn't offer her any time to spare. Rain poured in like a torrent, the wind pulling at her hair and clothes. Crawl through. I'll help you. She crouched down, grabbing Ethan's shoulders and urging him to climb out first. But just as he turned to scramble onto the ledge, the figure emerged in the hallway behind them, black and daunting. It stretched toward them, its form twisting unnaturally, as if seeking to embrace them. You can't escape, it rasped, each syllable dripping with venom. No. Go, Ethan. She screamed, firmly urging him through the window. He tumbled out into the stormy night, fear evident in his wild eyes. Keep running. She turned just in time to see the figure lunge. A primal instinct kicked in. She leaped through the window, the jagged edges tearing at her skin as she made a mad dash after her son, heart pounding against her ribs. They stumbled into the downpour together, soaked instantly, but she could feel no relief. The air felt heavy, charged with some desperate energy, as shadows danced around them, lurking and whispering secrets. Where do we go? Ethan's small voice cracked, tears mixing with rain on his cheeks. Anywhere but here. They pounded down the street, the wind howling, the storm raging its loud protest. But something shifted, something more ominous. The shadows from the house were not leaving them behind, they clung to them, swirling like dark tendrils, pulling at their feet. Suddenly, Ethan stumbled, falling to the asphalt, gasping, "It's still there, Mom. I can feel it. It's inside me." Panic gripped her heart. "Get up. You have to move." She grabbed his arm, hoisting him back up, but dread curled around them like a serpent. She could feel the presence morphing, infiltrating their very breaths. Then she noticed the crooked mirror from the trunk, now gleaming in the violent flashes of lightning around them. How was it here? Was this how they had been bound? What if it's in that thing? Ethan whispered, eyes wide. It seemed too crazy to think about, but fear spun her thoughts into knots. "Ethan, listen," she breathed, leaning down so they were eye to eye. "We need to break that mirror. We have to end it." But in that moment, Sarah felt it, a chill running down her spine, a voice clashing against her mind. "You think you can escape? Choices have been made. Run!" She screamed again, dragging Ethan along, the weight of 1,000 eyes watching them, biding their time. The storm soared to a deafening crescendo around them, and as they turned down an alley, Sarah caught her breath, realizing the heart-pounding truth: they were being hunted, the past clawing its way into their present. What had possessed that mirror? Who was trapped inside? And how far would they have to run to escape their fate? Behind them, the darkness stirred, imbued with determination. And with every frantic step they took, she feared they were not alone. Something ancient awaited, and it was closing in fast. The rain fell harder, creating a curtain of chaos around them, drowning out everything except the sinister whispers that flowed on the wind. Sarah pulled Ethan close as they stumbled into the narrow alley. Shadows twisted and turned, clawing at the edges of their sanity. Each crack of thunder seemed to mock their desperate flight. "Mom, I feel it," Ethan breathed, shivering against the biting cold. "It's coming faster. Don't think about it." Sarah snapped, but she could feel it too, a weight pressing down on their hearts, an invisible force trying to ensnare them. They rushed forward, each step splashing in puddles that mirrored their terror. In that instant, a flicker caught her eye. The cursed mirror glowed ominously, a sliver of light cutting through the darkness. "We can't stop!" Ethan cried, but Sarah's gaze was drawn to the mirror, an inexplicable pull rooting her momentarily in place. "Mom," he shouted, panic erupting in his voice. She shook herself free from the moment, the dark allure falling away as they resumed their escape. Yet, the mirror stayed in her mind, an unsettling thought gnawing at her. How could it have appeared outside the house? Ethan, still trembling, tugged at her shirt. "What if it wants us?" "Focus, Ethan. We're stronger than it," she encouraged, though doubt gnawed at her certainty. Anxiety threatened to take hold again, but she fought against it, urging him onward. The alley opened into a wider street, illuminated now by flickering streetlights battling the storm. Stray cats darted away, and the air felt alive with danger. The pounding rain seemed lighter compared to the darkness chasing them, and for a brief moment, she felt a false sense of safety. "Where do we go now?" Ethan asked, looking around. The distant sound of sirens wailed, a faint sign of civilization. "We need to get to the police station," Sarah decided, her voice steady despite the chaos within. She grabbed his hand and they took off, eyes darting around, fearing every shadow. "Just stay close." But the shadows twisted and turned, chasing them like specters given life. Her heart raced with dread as the air thickened, smothering them in palpable fear. A growing unease whispered through her mind, reminding her of the entity that clung to them from the house. They dashed toward the station, but as they ran, the sound of footsteps echoed behind them. It was unmistakable. The figure was close, relentless, feeding off their terror. "Ethan, don't look back," she yelled, her own voice betraying the fear clawing its way up her throat, but he couldn't help it. He turned his head just enough to see a shadow stretching, a distortion of the very world around them. It's getting bigger. Keep looking forward," she commanded, though the words barely matched her resolve. They turned the corner, running into the bright light of the street, and there it was, an enormous wall of darkness looming at the edge. "Mom!" Ethan screamed, stumbling back. "It's a wall. We can't escape." Panic slashed through her, and without thinking, Sarah pushed against him and sprinted toward the barrier, her resolve raw and desperate. They had to try, retreat was not an option. As they collided with the dark barrier, it rippled under their touch, like a veil of smoke. Ethan cried out, and Sarah felt a cold hand grip her heart. The barrier wasn't solid, it pulsed with a heartbeat of its own. The pieces began to fit together, memories from the past, the horrors hidden within that mirror seeped into her mind. "No!" she gasped, realization dawning. The mirror, it's connecting us to it. But before she could explain, the air around them shimmered, and the darkness erupted, consuming them whole. As Sarah fought against it, she felt the world tilting and twisting. They weren't being swallowed, they were being pulled back to the very house that had imprisoned them. In that moment, despair turned to fervor. They couldn't let this end like this. Ethan. We have to fight it. Get ready. She urged, but before she could complete her thought, another chilling voice rang out, softer yet insidious. Your choice awaits. And just like that, they were flung forward, the street vanished, replaced by nightmarish visions swirling around them. What were they truly up against? The storm outside had turned into a tempest of shadows now, each whisper lacking mercy as they spiraled deeper into the unknown. Somewhere in the chaos, another dark presence thrummed with life, beckoning them closer. Ethan, hold on to me. We need each other now more than ever. But as she shouted, a scream pierced through the veil. Was it her voice, or someone else's? It felt as though the night itself had come alive, revealing secrets that should never see the light of day. What choices must they make to survive this hell? Could they break the cycle, or would they lose each other to the darkness forever? Time slipped away as shadows danced around them, sealing their fate. The darkness pulled at them, an insatiable force dragging them deeper into its crushing embrace. Sarah felt her heartbeat echo in her ears, thumping in time with the whispers surrounding them. She clutched Ethan's arm tighter, a lifeline in a sea of despair. Stay with me. She shouted, but her voice felt swallowed by the void. Each shuddering breath filled her lungs with the stench of decay. Shadows twisted, forming grotesque shapes that lurked just beyond her vision, taunting her with echoes of her fears. Suddenly, the world shifted again, the chaos transforming into a chilling silence. The ground beneath them turned solid, a cold stone floor seeming to materialize from nowhere. A single flickering light hung above them, casting dark silhouettes that danced on the walls. The room was empty, but it reeked of stale air, dampness and something much worse, something sweet and sickly. Where are we? Ethan's voice trembled, the childlike innocence fighting against the fear creeping in. For God's sake, I don't know. Sarah's nerves frayed, her breath quickening. She crouched low, scanning the corners for any hint of danger. We need to find a way out. Now. Mom, Ethan's voice cracked, the terror palpable. What if it finds us? The shadows shifted, breathing in tandem with the silence. Sarah's mind raced, piecing together fragmented memories of the house. She recalled the mirror's flicker, the whispers that had drawn her in. A dark chamber begged for them in the corner of her thoughts, but she brushed it aside. They couldn't afford to dwell on that now. Stay behind me, she commanded, forcing her voice to sound more confident. We're going to keep moving. They crept forward, footsteps muffled by the age-old dust that coated the floor. The tension suffocated her. Each creak of the floorboard sent jolts of panic through her spine. Then came the voice again, soft, beckoning. Sarah, she froze, breath hitching. That voice. It was unmistakable. Sarah, it hissed, slithering into her ears like black smoke. Do you see the truth? Her heart raced. The shadows drew closer, closing in like a noose. No, she whispered, fighting the chilling familiarity the voice invoked. You're not real. Yet here you are. It laughed, a sound that echoed with torment. What did you think would happen? You sought me out, and now I am your guide. No. Ethan shrieked, eyes wide with terror. We want to leave. The room trembled as an oppressive force surged, pushing against them. Choice, the voice dripped with malice. The mirror cracked open the door to this world. Now you must decide: accept what you cannot change, or fight a battle you cannot win. Sarah stumbled back, the enormity of the words crashing over her. The mirror had corrupted their reality, distorted it. But how? They weren't ready to face the truth. Yet some dark fragment of her mind whispered it was their only way out. What do we do? Ethan clutched her tightly, his wide eyes reflecting the flickering light. Trust me. The words felt hollow as they left her lips. A low growl reverberated through the room, vibrating in her bones. The shadows thickened, taking form, monstrous and twisted. Make your choice. The darkness narrowed its focus, a malicious grin stretched across its shadowy face. Desperation gnawed at Sarah. She had two paths: surrender to the darkness that threatened to engulf them or push forward into the unknown. Before she could decide, a monstrous shape broke free from the shadows. Clawed hands reached for them, elongating as they burst through the dark. Your choice is nigh run. She screamed. Instinct kicked in, propelling them forward as they darted for an exit that might have never existed, but as they turned, a brilliant flash of light erupted. Sarah shielded her eyes, and when she looked again, they stood before the mirror, a twisted reflection of their terrified selves, still in the alley where this nightmare began. What? Ethan gasped, confusion mingling with fear. Behind them, the figure took a step closer, its voice oozing through the air like a venomous hiss. You think you can escape fate? You'll find me again when the mirror calls for you, and it will. Staring into the mirror, Sarah felt a pull, one that could lead them back into the depths of terror or unravel their very souls. What did we just do? She whispered, dread settling in. They had chosen a path, but would it lead them home or to a greater horror? The mirror glimmered, its surface shifting and sucking them back in with a sinister promise. What had they unwittingly unleashed? The mirror's surface shimmered, vibrating like a taut string about to snap. Sarah felt her gut churn as jagged memories flooded in visions of twisted corridors, whispers echoing in the darkness, and that sinister voice reverberating in her mind. It was as if the mirror had trapped them between worlds, dangling their fates above the abyss. Mom, I can't breathe, Ethan gasped, his small body trembling next to hers. It's okay, buddy. Just hold on tight, she urged, but her voice cracked, betraying her uncertainty. They could step back through the barrier to reality, but the darkness loomed just behind them. Shadows flickered with hunger. Do you want to see? It taunted, wrapping around their minds like mist. What really lies behind the curtain? No, Sarah snapped, shaking her head, desperation clawing at her. No more. We just want to go home. With a resounding crash, the reflection warped, and Sarah watched in horror as the figure stepped through the portal, a ghastly silhouette against the wavering light. Its features were obscured, but she could make out the gloss of its eyes, emptiness staring back at her like a gaping wound. Home. It hissed, an otherworldly growl punctuating each word. You think you ever left? Before she could react, the floor shook again, rippling like water. The mirror exploded into a kaleidoscope of shards, scattering the room with jagged edges and sparks of light. Sarah shielded Ethan with her body, and together they staggered back, panic clawing at their throats. Find the truth, Sarah, the voice crooned, reverberating off the stone walls. You can't run from what's inside you. Stop it. She screamed, pushing against the stubborn panic nestled deep in her chest. Ethan whimpered, pressing his cheek into her shoulder. I want to go home, Mom. I'm scared. As if fueled by their fear, the shadows swirled around Ethan, tendrils of darkness stretching out to grasp him. Sarah lunged, her heart racing, and grabbed him just before the darkness could close around him. Don't let it take you. She cried. We need to move. They stumbled backward, desperate to find an exit in this nightmarish prison that twisted the world they once knew. Yet with each step, the ground beneath them shifted, sinking, and swirling like a whirlpool drawing them down. No. I want to let you take us. Sarah yelled. They were more than just prey, they were fighting back against the consuming void. The darkness churned, a menacing growl bubbling from within. Fight? You think it's a choice? Suddenly, the walls unfurled like petals, revealing a long hall of mirrors that extended endlessly, each reflecting their varying expressions of terror. Each image was a reminder of their failures, their hidden fears. Ethan, Don't look. Sarah shouted. Keep your eyes on me. But the boy's gaze snapped to one of the mirrors. His reflection smiled back, and it wasn't his own. No. Ethan. The boy, tranced by the dark doppelganger, took a tentative step towards it. Join us, Ethan, it called sweetly, promises wrapped in a false sense of security. We can be happy together, no. She lunged, but the shadows shoved her back. Ethan, please. He remained entranced as the other mirrored him, pulling closer. Sarah's heart raced as desperation clawed at every thought. Snap out of it. You have to fight. With primal instinct, Sarah wrenched herself free from the binds of panic. She lunged forward, shattering the mirror with her fist. Glass exploded outward, cascading a rain of sharp shards, cutting through the shadows surrounding Ethan. The moment the cry of shattering glass echoed, Ethan jolted as if awakening from a deep slumber. He turned, fear etched on his face as he stumbled toward her, clutching her tightly. Mom! What did I almost do? Before she could respond, the vortex in the center of the hall pulsed with malevolence, dark ripples seeking to gather strength. Your struggle has only begun, the voice murmured, its laughter creeping into the corners of her mind. As the last shards of the broken mirror fanned out, a blinding light illuminated their path, a flicker of hope amid the encroaching despair. But the darkness warped again, rising like smoke, ready to pull them back. Run! Sarah screamed, and with Ethan in tow, they dashed down the hall, unsure of where it would take them next. Would they find a way to escape this cycle, or would the lure of the truth draw them back into the darkness they've tried to flee? What would the mirrors reveal to them if they couldn't face their fears? Cold air whipped around them as they fled down the seemingly endless hall of mirrors. Each reflection fractured their image, splintering them into a dozen versions of fear and desperation. Their breaths came in sharp, hurried gasps while the shadows thrashed against the glass, eager to pull them back into the void. Mom, where are we going? Ethan's voice trembled, barely above a whisper. I don't know, she admitted, panic gnawing at her. Just keep running. A crack echoed like thunder, reverberating through the distorted hallway. The walls shuddered, and Sarah felt the thick, oppressive darkness inch closer. She looked back and saw a swirling mass of shadows chasing them, hungry and relentless. Something shifted in her peripheral vision. For a split second, a mirror showed a familiar setting. The living room of their home, warm, safe. The reality of it momentarily broke through the dread, wrapping around her like comfort. And just as quickly, it vanished, replaced by another twisted scene. Ethan's terrified face, next to a version of herself, eyes black and bottomless, smiling wickedly. No. Don't look. She screamed, turning him away just in time. Mom, please. Ethan cried. I can hear them. They're talking to me. The whispers hummed in the back of Sarah's mind, combining into a chorus of warning and seduction. You can't escape who you are, you belong to us. Ethan struggled against her grip. I want to go home. We have to stop this. It's not real. She shouted, but uncertainty crept into her voice. She could feel the pull of the darkness, the seductive promise of sanctuary within the shadows. A new sound rose above the whispers, a soft, rhythmic tapping, like fingers drumming against glass. Each beat matched her racing heartbeat, fueling her fear. I can't do this. Sarah shouted. We can't stay here. Ethan's small frame shivered as the tapping grew louder. The reflections flickered and twisted, revealing glimpses of agony and sorrow. Her thoughts spiraled out of control as the shadows grew bold, flickering closer, yearning to wrap around them in their cold embrace. Suddenly, Ethan pulled away, breaking free from her grip. Mom! Look! He pointed toward a mirror at the far end of the hall, where a bright, golden light glimmered, shimmering against the darkness. Ethan, no. Don't, but he was already moving toward it, drawn in by its brilliance. Sarah's heart raced as she chased after him, the weight of fear pressing down as the shadows clawed at her heels. Ethan! She screamed, her voice cracking. Get back here! But as he reached the mirror, the light flickered and his reflection warped, revealing a twisted version that grinned back at him, eyes burning with malice. Join us, Ethan, the doppelganger cooed, dark tendrils curling around his small frame, beckoning him closer. No. Sarah lunged, feeling the icy grip of despair clutching at her throat. Don't. She barreled into him just as the darkness surged forward, shattering the mirror with a blinding explosion of glass and light. Chunks flew like deadly snowflakes around them, slicing through the shadows that howled in anger. For a brief moment, there was silence. Both mother and son stumbled to their feet, breathing heavily. Smoke curled around them, the oppressive weight of the darkness easing, but not gone. Is it over? Ethan whispered, eyes wide with fear. Sarah shook her head, her heart still pounding. I don't know. But we have to keep moving. I can feel it. Something's coming. Just then, the walls began to close in, the mirrors rushing toward them like hungry beasts. Run! Sarah yelled, pushing Ethan ahead, the fear of keeping him safe igniting her adrenaline. They dove into the next corridor, hearts hammering, but uncertainty loomed. Threatening whispers chased them from behind, growing stronger. You can't hide from the truth. With every step they took, the ground shook beneath them. What awaited them at the end of this terrifying maze? Only one thing was certain, the shadows were not finished with them yet. And as Sarah sprinted forward, a thought pierced through her panic. Had she truly discovered just how deep the darkness ran? Or was this hell only the beginning? They dashed into the next corridor, the air thickening with dread. The marble floor felt slick beneath their feet, like ice. With each step, the whispers grew louder, swirling around them like a dark storm. You'll never escape. You belong to us. Sarah glanced back, a flash of panic gripping her heart as writhing shadows licked the edges of their sanctuary. We can't stop. Keep moving. She urged, rough fingers wrapping around Ethan's wrist, pulling him forward. Ethan's eyes darted nervously. Mom, I'm scared. His voice cracked, a heartbreaking sound that shattered her frazzled nerves. She glanced back at him, forcing herself to appear strong, though inside she felt hollow. Look! She shouted, nearly stumbling as she pointed ahead. A doorway flickered into view, a promise of escape. It was framed by eerie luminescence, casting a glow that felt unearthly. Without thinking, she surged forward, the weight of shadows pushing behind them. Each whisper cut through her thoughts, taunting her, reminding her of the truth she desperately sought to avoid. You know the truth, Sarah. You can't escape it, Mom. Ethan cried, his voice rising above the tumult. What if it's a trap? Trust me. She yelled, gaze fixed ahead. They barreled toward the door, Ethan's small size giving him the speed to keep up, despite the looming terror. As they neared the doorway, darkness surged behind them, glowing eyes emerging from the shadows, hungry and relentless. Join us, they hissed. Sarah threw her body through the threshold with Ethan stumbling behind her, heart leaping into her throat. But they weren't safe yet. The doorway slammed shut just as the shadows reached it, vibrating with anger. Breathless, they stood in the small room, entrapped. The light was stark, exposing walls stripped of decorations and honors. In the center lay an old mirror, dusty and cracked. It loomed ominously, refracting their shadows in grotesque, warped shapes. What is this place? Ethan breathed, his voice trembling. Suddenly, deep laughter echoed from the mirror, a sinister sound that chilled Sarah to her core. You think you've escaped? It reverberated, pounding against her skull. This is where it all ends. Shut up. Sarah yelled, eyes darting around the room. The fear clawed at her brain. Were they still trapped in the game? Is the mirror evil? Ethan asked, stepping closer, drawn inexplicably to its shimmer. No. She shouted, grabbing his shoulder, panic sparking anew. Stay away from it. Mom, his eyes glazed with an unsettling light, one she recognized from the Hall of Mirrors. The fear sank into her gut like a stone. She realized he was letting it in. Ethan, listen. She knelt down to be eye level, clasping his face between her hands. You're stronger than this. You are not them. The laughter crescendoed, taunting, echoing. But he belongs with horror, she watched as Ethan's reflection blurred, twisting into something monstrous, something that grinned back at her through the glass. Break it! Ethan shouted suddenly, and he lunged toward the mirror. No! Sarah screamed, launching herself to intercept him. He staggered back, and she caught him just as the mirror began to ripple like water. The laughter crescendoed into a deafening roar, drowning her thoughts. Somehow, she needed to break the cycle. Frantically scanning the room, her eyes landed on a small chair. A plan formed, reckless and desperate. Ethan, help me. Together they grabbed the chair and hurled it at the mirror. Glass shattered in a brutal explosion, sending shards spiraling through the air. But the darkness wouldn't relent. The room pulsed with energy demonic, unforgiving surging at the edges of their vision. Breath seizing in her lungs, Sarah turned her gaze toward the gateway they had entered through. It was still sealed tight. Clutching Ethan tighter, she felt the frightening weight of the shadows growing bolder. Mom, I don't want to be here anymore. Ethan's voice trembled, piercing her heart with its sincerity. A sick realization washed over her. There was something they needed to confront, something tethering them to this nightmare. Then we have to find a way out, Ethan. But just then, the mirror shards began to shift, swirling as one dark entity. The whisper returned, filling the room, embrace your truth. The end is just the beginning. As chilling laughter echoed around them, Sarah felt the darkness clawing back, eager and prepared for its prize. Where could they possibly run next? Did they even still have a choice? The shadows shuddered, drawing near, their whispers filling the air with promises of despair. Sarah's heart raced, adrenaline coursing through her. With Ethan clutched tightly to her side, they faced the swirling remnants of the shattered mirror, now a maelstrom of darkness threatening to drag them under. I won't let it take you. She shouted fiercely, determination igniting within her. We'll find a way out. As if in response, the laughter twisted around them, a cacophony of dissonance. The shadows writhed into monstrous shapes, reaching toward them with clawed hands and hollow whispers, begging for surrender. Each breath felt heavy with impending doom, but in the chaos, a flicker of recognition sparked in Sarah's mind. She glanced down at Ethan, clutching his trembling hand, and whispered fiercely, we need to remember who we are. We can fight this. Mom, I don't understand. His voice trembled, eyes wide with terror. It's the fear, it's trying to confuse us. We have to see through it. She urged, her heart swelling with fierce love. Remember the good things, Ethan. Remember what makes you brave. Suddenly, an image bloomed in her mind, their cozy living room, filled with sunlight, laughter, and the smell of hot cocoa on winter afternoons. Ethan's smile breaking through an icy dawn. Those moments were anchors, and she needed to share that warmth with him. Think of our adventures in the park, buddy. The way you giggled when we swung high, she continued, her words tumbling out, the memories weaving a protective shield around them. Or when we built that giant snow fort. Remember how we laughed as the cold bit our noses? Ethan's breathing slowed, and she could see the realization dawning in his eyes. And when we caught fireflies. And the puppy. He whispered, memories unlocking doorways to courage within him. That's right. We're more than this. She shouted, the swirling shadows flinching as if her words hurt them. We can stand together against this darkness. The shadows recoiled, their cacophony wavering. Suddenly, the shattered pieces of the mirror shifted, forming a new image. Each fragment reflected not monsters, but tiny pieces of their life, faded photographs of laughter, love, warmth. The monstrous forms shrank, faltering against the brightness of their shared memories. Encouraged, they stepped closer to the swirling fragments, Ethan's hand steady in hers. Together, she declared sharply. Now, let us break the cycle. As they approached the mirror's chaotic edge, a blinding light erupted, illuminating every inch of the dark chamber. The laughter, anger, and sorrow mingled together, pulsing with each heartbeat like a drum. The shadows hissed, recoiling as they pushed forward. With all her strength, Sarah screamed, "You don't own us. We choose joy." The mantra rippled through her, she could feel the words strengthening them as the shadows writhed and snarled. The figure emerged, agitated, its voice echoing like thunder, "You cannot escape your truth. Your fears are your own." But they stood firm. "No." They shouted in unison, the force of love binding them together. "You're wrong. We will not surrender." In that moment of defiance, the light surged, consuming the darkness, spreading like wildfire throughout the room. The shadows shrieked, twisting and merging back into the mirror's shards, splintering them as they faded. The air crackled, filled with electricity, then fell silent. Searing brightness enveloped Sarah and Ethan, allowing them to traverse back through time, sharp memories swirling around them until they were pulled toward a different plane, a place where light reigned, free of shadows. With a sudden jolt, they found themselves outside once more, the storm having calmed. The air smelled fresh and clean, and the light of dawn spread forth in gentle hues of pink and gold, illuminating their battered forms. "Did we win?" Ethan whispered, worry pooling in his big eyes. Sarah knelt down, holding him close. "We did, buddy. We faced our fears together and won." As she held him, the home they had fled stood behind them, quiet and still, but forever changed. She felt a weight lift, an echo of darkness drift away. They had shattered something powerful, something holding them captive. In that moment, a magnificent rainbow appeared, stretching across the vast sky. Each color radiated hope and the promise that they could reclaim their lives. "Let us go home, Ethan," she said softly, taking his hand. Together, they walked away from the haunted shadows of the night, towards the warmth of their new dawn, ready for whatever adventure came next, knowing that they could face anything together. Then, they stepped into the warm embrace of orange light, the world around them alive with possibility. This is your moment to confront your own fears, to break free. Don't forget to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now, it helps us reach more souls out there. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what you just witnessed. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything. Let us keep this journey going together.